Welcome to another Super Deluxe Edition unboxing video, and today we're looking at the Beatles Let It Be. This is the 5LP vinyl box set, the belated 50th anniversary of Let It Be. It should have come out last year, it never did. First thing we notice about this box set is it's got a die cut sort of slipcase here, so that's the familiar cover to Let It Be. But actually, if you slide it out, what you're looking at there is the book at the front. So we'll get all the contents out in a minute. It's a very sturdy slipcase. It kind of has to be, because if you're going to do this die cutting, you need some strength in the board that's being used. But it's black, it's glossy. Let It Be in the familiar writing. Although you'll notice, if you compare that to the original Let It Be, the actual font is slightly thicker than it was before. And it is the same on the album cover as well, so I will look at that in a little while. So there's a few minor differences. That might be deliberate, that might be a small nod to the fact that what we get in this box set is a stereo remix of Let It Be, not the original stereo mix remastered. So yeah, let's just recap what we do get in this box set. This is very glossy, so I'm going to try not to get too many reflections. But the first record in the set is the Let It Be album, newly remixed by Giles Martin, famously of course the son of George Martin. The second and third records are a collection of sessions and rehearsals and apple jams, as they're called. So this is as you would expect, lots of chatter, lots of conversation, alternative takes, alternative run-throughs of songs. Certain takes don't come to a complete end, they just break down, that kind of thing. And the fourth LP is the original Glyn Johns mix of what was then called Get Back, the Get Back album. So this was the original concept, which was going to be the Beatles raw, the Beatles, without the production, the Beatles as they perform live in the studio, and that was keeping to that original concept, which obviously got abandoned in the end. And then the final record, it's not a full LP, it's an EP, and it's a bit of a sort of collection of new mixes and bits and bobs. So it's actually called the Let It Be EP, and there's 4 tracks across the universe: an unreleased Glyn Johns mix from 1970, I Me Mine, another unreleased Glyn Johns mix from 1970, and then Don't Let Me Down and Let It Be, both new mixes of the original single versions. So that's what's in this box. I think we'll look at the book first, since that's on the top. Now this is a new thing for a Beatles vinyl box set, having the book in the vinyl box set. But yeah, obviously there's a lot of focus on vinyl at the moment, so it's a logical move in a way to put the book in the vinyl box set. A lot of vinyl buyers were complaining, why do only CD buyers get the book? So I think this is an example of a record company listening to the feedback and actually taking note and doing something about it. So I think it's to be applauded, really, that the vinyl box set comes with this very, very good hardcover book. I'll have to give it the appropriate knock. That's obviously the photos from the album laid out precisely as they are on the album. It fits into that die cut outer slipcase, and we'll take a look through the book now. So it's done very much, it's got a kind of design treatment where it's a sort of rough and ready sort of mock-up laid out type style, which is obviously in keeping with the sort of rough and ready feel of the Let It Be project as a whole. So you can see here you've got the sort of sticky tape feel and bits of paper and all that kind of stuff. So it's done very nicely, actually. So let's just go through it sort of briefly. There's a foreword by Paul McCartney. It doesn't really say anything too revelatory, but so he's sort of understatement of the year. He says, the album we made was given to record producer Phil Spector to put the finishing touches to, and even though I must admit I was not keen on some of his additions, it turned out to be a fine Beatles album in the end. So I guess he acknowledges it's not really a disaster. So that's Paul. There's some notes here from Giles, Glyn Johns, all these sort of key players making their notes about the record. Lots of good photography, as you might expect. So John Harris. Now you'll be aware there's a book out that accompanies Peter Jackson's film called The Beatles Get Back, and that's annotations by John Harris of the audio from the original sessions. So this is to do with conversations rather than the actual music. So John talks a little bit about that here. And then Kevin Howlett, who's been involved in sort of Beatles projects for quite a long time, he writes about Let It Be in this section. But the best bit of this book is this bit, track by track. So again, Kevin Howlett tackles this. But this is really, really interesting because it goes through each track and talks about it in detail. But the best bit is at the top of each track here. It tells you for each song which versions are used on which album. So Two of Us, for instance, let's just take this as an example. So it tells you the Let It Be version was recorded on the 31st of January 1969. The same take was remixed for Let It Be Naked. And then the Get Back album, which is included in this box set, uses a version recorded on the 24th of January 1969. So effectively there's two versions of Two of Us. There's one version which is used on the Get Back album, which is the Glyn Johns version. And then there's one other version which is used on both Let It Be Naked and Let It Be. So, but every song it tells you that, and some of them are really interesting because it's so easy to, even the best Beatles student amongst us, you do forget after a while which versions are used where. So this is like, really, really good source material, and loads of pictures of tape boxes and all the rest of it. So this book is such an important part of this box set. There's no way you don't want this book, basically. So I can understand why vinyl buyers were annoyed when they didn't get the book before, but now you have got the book. It's a real addition to the box set. And I think it's, well worth any slight increase in price that you have to pay to get this box set. So absolutely fantastic book. Quite weighty. There's so much to read in there, so that's really, really good stuff. So this is the Let It Be album itself. As I said, it's been remixed by Giles Martin. I have listened to it, and without doing a close A/B type scrutiny, my initial opinion is it's not massively different. There's nothing revelatory about it. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it or Giles has not done his job. It just means what he has done is very subtle, I think. Here's a little comparison. This is the stereo reissue from 2012, and this is the stereo remix from 2021, so 9 years apart. They have done some colour correction and some slight minor alterations to the images. There's a sort of slightly green hue to some of those photographs on the 2012 version. If you compare George, for instance, there's a kind of whiteness, a sort of bluey kind of whiteness to the new one, which not unpleasing, but it's definitely different. And also you can see there, look, that's a good comparison for you. It's very subtle, but the Let It Be's are slightly different. If you look at the B's, look at the holes in the B's. The original is bigger because it's not quite as thick a font. Minor thing, but it's definitely a difference. There's not much difference in terms of the back. In fact, it looks more or less identical. The album itself comes in a black poly-lined inner sleeve. Recreation of the Apple logo. So that's the actual Let It Be album itself. There's the spine, if you can see that. Now the two bonus albums of all the outtakes and sessions come in a gatefold sleeve, which I quite like actually. So instead of getting two separate records in single sleeves, you get this nice gatefold, which is good. It's also worth noting that if you want to, you can put this at the front of the records that go in the box. You put it in front of the book, and you've got an alternative kind of cover to your box, which is a nice little touch, I think. So this is quite interesting. There's some really good bits of dialogue on here actually. There's a great bit where John talks about Paul, being quite sort of thoughtful towards Paul, because Paul's expressed some reservations about how a song's turning out. I don't know which one it is. I think it might be Two of Us. But yeah, it sort of shows the thoughtful side of John, and not sort of shouting everyone down, or kind of being aggressive or anything like that. And I think that's kind of probably what the documentary is going to focus on as well. In terms of the actual records, again, these just come in black polyline sleeves. They've done the Apple logos in a more graphical style for these records. I mean, my opinion on these outtakes and everything is that I think they've done a reasonable job. And to be honest, once you listen to all this, it's kind of like, I don't want to listen to 51 hours of the Beatles mucking around trying to. I know some people do, but it does get a bit dull after a while. So, I mean, if we just run through this quickly, I have listened to all this, but can't really remember all the details. But there's an alternative version of Two of Us, Maggie May. Fancy My Chances With You is them mucking around, just singing an old song. Can You Dig It? I Don't Know Why I'm Moaning speech. That's the one I was just telling you about with sort of Paul McCartney, and they're sort of debating the whole idea of trying to keep control of your own track, and how unhappy you are that it's going off in a direction that you might not be pleased with. For You Blue, another one. Let It Be, which there's a sort of, Paul starts playing Let It Be, and then on the piano starts doing a kind of an amusing rendition of Please Please Me. What a brilliant song. I've got a feeling it is. I mean, I was listening to it earlier on the new stereo mix. Start of side 2, it just sounds so good. Dig a Pony, Get Back, Take 19, some more speech about making an album, One After 909, Don't Let Me Down from the Rooftop, Long and Winding Road, Wake Up Little Susie, I Me Mine. And then on the second sort of record, there's much more rehearsals of things that ended up on Abbey Road. So She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, Octopus's Garden, the obvious one, Polythene Pam. There's these songs like Gimme Some Truth, which obviously ended up on Imagine. So there's 2 records there. Loads of stuff to enjoy. So that's quite nicely packaged. And this is the one that everyone's probably been waiting for. Finally, 50 years later, an official release for the much bootlegged Glyn Johns Get Back album. Now, of course, famously sort of mocked up to look like the first Beatles album, which was, of course, Please Please Me. And just as a reminder, that's what Please Please Me looks like, just in case you'd forgotten. So, yeah, totally done in the style of. And this, these were sort of mocked up at the times, and that's what they've based this on. So if you think, well, that Apple looks a bit dodgy or whatever, well, this is kind of like based on the original mock-ups. And the back as well, it's done in the style of, which again reflects the original, which you can see there. Now, the only reservation I have about this is anyone that's just seen the new poster for the Beatles Get Back, the Peter Jackson 3-part event, as they're calling it, for Disney Plus. Anyway, if you've seen that poster, there's a great poster that has this shot, and then it fades up and it has the shot of them from Please Please Me. So it's all kind of merged into one photo. Anyway, that photo on the poster is perfectly pure, and it's like, really nice and colourful. It's as it was sort of clean as a whistle as it was taken on the day. What they've done for this cover is they've sort of tinted it and colorized it and adjusted the colour and the filters to make it look like this. So, it's got that kind of browny kind of early 60s kind of feel to it, which is kind of, I get that. I sort of get the idea, but the problem is the photo itself just doesn't, I don't think it doesn't look as good as the other photo. So part of me wishes they'd just done away with some of the sort of gimmicky concepts and just presented this photo as sort of clean and pristine and as kind of natural as they could, as it looks in the poster, really. So it's such a good photo that I know it's on the the Blue album and all that. But anyway, in a way, the photo doesn't look as sharp and as crisp as it could do. That's really my only sort of issue with it. I can see why they didn't want to do this in a way, because it's like, you know, you want to have an original cover for each album. So one that references another album, in a way, that's a bit reductive. But basically, I think, you know, I'm a massive Beatles fan. I love everything they did, but there's no doubt about it. There's elements to this album that just don't work. So it doesn't surprise me that the Beatles rejected it at the time. It's just too rough and ready, you know. I mean, Paul's Teddy Boy is, you know, frankly, it's a terrible song, even on McCartney. There's a sort of half-written version which ends up on here, and it's just rubbish, you know. It's just not very good. Why would you want that on your new record? You know, and same with this medley. It's just not very good, you know. So it's just, the whole thing is just so kind of lackluster, really. And it's interesting, and it's historical. It might have been the album, but it wasn't. So historically, it's of interest. But I 100% agree with the reasoning not to release this. And even if it was a bit of a bodge job tarting it up for the final Let It Be album, you know, I still think the final Let It Be album's much better than this. So that's the record. One of the advantages of getting the vinyl version of this box set is very much to have this on its own as a big vinyl record. I think that's quite important, and I think, you know, it's nice to be able to, if you want to, take it out of the box set, put it on the shelf with all your other Beatles albums. So that's a big positive, despite what I've said about the sort of limitations of this album. It's historically important, and it's very nice to have this. Last but not least is the Let It Be EP. So this is done in a sort of simple die-cut sleeve with the Apple logo on it. And again, Apple logo. I mean, this is very much an EP, but they put it on a 12-inch record. On the CD version of this, you do get a separate CD with the 4 tracks on it, which some people have said, well, why couldn't they have just put them on one of the other CDs? But the reasoning is obvious. They wanted to keep everything the same for a start between vinyl and CD, and also they wanted to make sure that the Get Back album was on its own CD, so that's one thing on its own. So that's all the contents of the box set. So just to go over that one more time, there's the book there, which is, how many pages is this book? It's over 100 pages. There's the stereo remix of Let It Be. Not a fantastic album, but not a terrible one either. When you consider that it's got Let It Be, Two of Us, I've Got a Feeling, Long and Winding Road, Get Back, Across the Universe. I mean, it's hardly, you know, substandard in terms of the quality of some of the songs. I think all the baggage around the Let It Be album sort of drags it down a little bit. The brilliant Fly on the Wall, 2 albums of sessions, rehearsals and jams. The all-important Glyn Johns Get Back album. And finally the Let It Be EP. All that little lot slots back into the outer slipcase, and that's what it looks like on the shelf. You've got Let It Be, slightly different typeface actually, but yeah, you can tell what you're looking at when you've got that sitting on your shelf. That's what it looks like from the other side. No backing sheet or anything, interestingly enough, on this. All this detail is actually printed on the outside of the box. So I hope you've enjoyed this first look at the Let It Be Vinyl Super Deluxe Edition. If you have, why not subscribe to the SDE YouTube channel for more great physical music unboxed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.